Sold! Here are the keys to your new home. New beginnings sound exciting. From a new marriage to a new home, having access to legal help comes in handy. With Legal Shield, you can connect with a designated law firm that knows your state laws, helping with prenups, real estate contracts, and even wills and estate planning, starting around $1 a day. Legal Shield. Real lawyers, really affordable. For 10% off your annual subscription, sign up at LegalShield.com today. That's LegalShield.com. Legal Shield does not provide legal representation or advice. See a plan for complete terms.
You can't predict the future, but you can prepare for it. Arizona State University is building degrees for what's ahead. Programs designed around emerging fields, taught by faculty whose research is shaping our future, not just teaching about it. It's why we've been ranked #1 in innovation for more than a decade. Your future is worth preparing for, and you don't have to prepare alone. Future-proof your career. Explore more than 350 programs at asuonline.asu.edu. That's a degree better.
A team that did do it on defense last year, at least, Brian, was the Chargers. And it's not necessarily what we expected to be the strength of that team. The Chargers did finish second in the AFC West and went to the playoffs. I remember you and I and Shane were doing a playoff preview, and Shane said, there's no way the Patriots are going anywhere in the playoffs unless they play the Chargers. And he proved quite correct. Not only did they play the Chargers, but that proved to charge the Patriots playoff run and not the Chargers. It was all supposed to be so different. Jim Harbaugh was going to come in and make the difference. This year, the talk is that Mike McDaniel, the newly hired offensive coordinator in Los Angeles, is going to be the man who sprinkled a little bit of fairy dust around the team that seems to have a lot of the right pieces on the board, but just plays checkers when everyone else is playing chess.
Just the inconsistency on offense over the course of the season. Connor, you can put it down to a lot of various factors. Is it injuries on the offensive line? Like, they lose key offensive line players, quite early in the season, the grand scheme of things in terms of where they expect it to be. And Justin Herbert is then at one stage playing, was he playing with a broken arm? His left arm was in it's all patched up, and he's struggling for parts of the season. And it was evident.
Just a flesh wound.
Just a flesh wound. That's what they were suggesting at the time. But if you think of that playoff game, that was like the late Sunday night football game, and they never had an opportunity whatsoever offensively, because Herbert couldn't do anything. The offensive line struggled throughout the course of the game. They couldn't just go up and down. Like, we saw huge, great games where they put up huge numbers against the Broncos, and it's a fantastic Thursday night football game where they come out the right side of it. And early on in the season, they're putting huge numbers up. They go toe to toe with the Chiefs for a big game early on in the season. They don't necessarily win it. Then as the season progressed, I just felt offensively, they kind of tailed off, Connor. It just didn't seem to be. There was a huge game on a Saturday night where they still put themselves in the position to win the division. It's in SoFi. Texans come in. Okay, the Texans are on a huge run at the time. Texans go and beat them. That's the kind of measuring stick on a game for them. That's that part of the season where you feel if they're going to be a really serious contender come playoff time, that was the type of game they were going to win. Yeah, they were up there with the Broncos for large parts of the season. It's not like that's soft on the current. I'm not going to say they're like Spurs, because that used to be the recurring joke on this team. They're too Spursy for us, but we felt like that tag had gone from them for large parts of the last couple of years, because they've been with Harbaugh and they've been in the playoffs. So I don't know what it is. I'll let the lads jump in, because I'm just not convinced by this team. I'm not convinced they're going to be a playoff team this coming season. I'll probably be wrong come the back end of the season, but I'm not convinced.
Well, Kieran Donovan, as I said, the man who's supposed to make the difference this year and is getting a lot of good buzz in the off-season is Mike McDaniel. Signs were on that he was on the way out the door in Miami, and that proved to be the case. He was relieved of his head coaching duties a little bit later than some of us, yourself included, and myself included, thought. He hung on in there for quite a while. One of the things I've been enjoying in the off-season, incidentally, is Mike McDaniel's friendship with the comedian Dan Soder, which leads to some great podcast interactions between the two of them. Dan Soder, for people who aren't familiar with them, played McPhee on Billions. If you've never seen Billions and you don't know who Dan Soder is, you need to, when you're finished listening to this, check that out, and you can thank me for it later. But McDaniel with Harbaugh in Los Angeles, if he can get an extra 10%, 15% out of that offense, could be the meal ticket that they need.
Yeah, how often on this show do we talk about how teams struggle when they lose a good coordinator? And as bad a head coach as I thought Mike McDaniel was, and I was banging that drum from very early last season, you cannot question his credentials as an excellent offensive mind. And I think he's the hire of the season. And I think that'll prove to be the case. I'm going to push my chips in again with the Chargers. I know you kind of pushed back a little bit last year, but I'm riding with the Chargers again this year. I think they did the most with the biggest issues last year. I mean, that ship started taking on water when Joe Alton and Slater went down last year. On the offensive line, they just couldn't block anybody. And look, they squeaked into the playoffs, but they were going nowhere with that O-line. It was just, it just wasn't going to happen. Whereas you bring back Alt, you bring back Slater, you add Tyler Biadasz, Jake Slaughter, Cole Strange. If those guys can stay upright, you now have that, that pass protection again for Justin Herbert, who I do believe is a top tier talent in the league. But also you got to see Omarion Hampton last year, who had 4.4 yards a clip up until he got hurt. He didn't have an offensive line really blocking for him either last year. You saw Kamani Vidal come in and really contribute in Omarion Hampton's absence. So you've got a good 1-2 punch on the ground. You've got the addition then of, did they go out and get, what's his name from Cleveland, Njoku, tight end?
Njoku, did, yeah.
Yeah, so like you've got him, Oronde Gatson, who we talked about last year with Chris Rim from ESPN, and who spoke very, very highly about Gatson as a pass-catching tight end. You complement that with Charlie Kohler, a fantastic blocking tight end. You can do everything, 11, 12, 13 personnel with those tight ends. And then you look at Lad McConkey, Quentin Johnson, Trey Harris, who can make a step, Keandre Lambert-Smith. I mean, they have weapons on offense. And by the way, they were a top 5 defense last year. So as long as Chris O'Leary can come in and that defense doesn't miss a beat, I know you're missing Jesse Minter. So as long as he can come in and fill that gap, you could be looking at one of the best rosters in football. And, I do think, while I do agree with you, I think the Broncos, who we will speak about in a minute, they didn't have much to do to fix their team. And I think they made a huge stride in adding to, in creating a huge advantage or a huge addition to that roster. I think that in this offseason, the Chargers have done the most to boost their roster, to put them in a position to win the division. And I do think they'll be the team that will push the Broncos right to the finish.
Kieran Boyle, of all the quarterbacks who people consistently rate as the best in the game of that generational crop, if you're looking at Herbert, Allen, Lamar, Patrick Mahomes, I feel like the one who gets the least hype is Justin Herbert, or the one who people are the first to get on top of is Justin Herbert. And I'm not sure that his performances over his time in the league really justify that. I was actually just looking at it earlier today. I mean, of the players who are ahead of him in the key statistical categories, there aren't many. Like, you're talking in terms of completions, touchdown throws, passing yards. Granted, he plays in a nice city, in a nice stadium, in good weather a lot of the time. So you'd expect his stats to be good, but he hasn't always had the team around him. I'm inclined to believe that if you swapped him for Josh Allen, he'd do at least as well with the Bills. And I'm not sure that other quarterbacks would necessarily have done as well as he has with what he's had around him in the time he's in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and you rattled off a couple of quarterback names there, and you ask why he hasn't got the props. Well, it's because he hasn't won. I mean, the guys that you mentioned have won, and they've been consistent winners, and they've been durable. Chargers just got smoked in the wild card round again for the third time in 4 years. I mean, this is a team that, excuse my French, crapped the bed in Jacksonville a couple of years ago when they were, the game was all but over. So this is a team that's got no winning pedigree. And this is the kind of stuff that rubs off on Herbert, and it kind of taints his, not a legacy because he's still fairly active. But
my point is, we're a little bit more forgiving of Josh Allen, who had a 4 turnover game in the divisional round last year. We're a little bit more forgiving of Lamar Jackson, who also seems to shit the bed in the playoffs every single year. I feel like Herbert gets dinged more often.
Well, they don't shit the bed in the wild card. That's the difference. They
make a lot of shitting tonight. That is a lot of shitting on this episode tonight.
I mean, those guys are getting into conference championship games on the regular, and Herbert can't get at, the Chargers can't get past the knockout stages. I mean, what a whimper. That game against the Patriots was a huge letdown, just like the one against the Jags in 22. So until he changes that narrative, and until he starts, listen, nobody's going to doubt his talent, his skill, any of that. He's a hugely talented quarterback, a great player, but it's a league that you got to win. And unfortunately, he hasn't had the surrounding cast to help him. And I don't think there's really a huge change this year. I'm not high on this Chargers team at all. Again, I talked a lot last year about a a missing kind of culture, they're missing something, whether it's the stale, sterile kind of SoFi atmosphere where, the majority of the fans are road fans, or if it's, what is their identity? Are they a smash mouth team on offense? No. Do they have a huge 6'5" running back that runs up and down the field? No. They got wide receivers that make circus catches like Jefferson? No. They've got, I don't want to call them pedestrian or average.
Let's forget about everything that I just said there. Just all those players.
Which all our opinions are cherished. This is a safe space for opinions. You're all allowed to express what we feel.
Connor, which trip are you going with? Chargers for the Super Bowl or Chargers to lose the division?
It's a broad church. It's a broad church, as Mr.
I'm all the way out in the Chargers until they start.
There's room for all these opinions.
You remember Sexual Chocolate and Coming to America when Eddie Murphy's going off the stage? This is me with the Chargers. So it's just, good.
Connor, sorry, I don't mean to jump in on Kieran. Kieran said about there's no the culture change hasn't come along there. Like Harbaugh was supposed to bring in the culture change there. No, you could argue they've challenged in the division this year. They've made the playoffs. They come up short. I'm not convinced on them.
Winning creates a culture, and they haven't done that. There's just nothing going on. And that was a great season they had, a nice regular season, had some nice wins. We talked to Cam Hart in San Francisco, had a super pick against the Eagles in that four interception game. So they're capable of putting up huge performances, and I'll get to the D in a second. But you need playmakers on offense, and I'm looking around. Yeah, they got Tyler Biadasz on the line. McDaniel begged for Cole Strange at guard. He got him. They lost OA and Loie Gilman in free agency, but a wide receiver room of Quentin Johnson, McConkey, and Trey Harris is not blowing me away. I know Gadsden's a great talent, and so is Njoku, but the run game still scares me with Hampton and Harvey. I just don't think there's enough there to withstand a bruising, not just an AFC West, but a bruising AFC conference in general. The D is great. There's no real faults I can say for the D. Top 10 unit last year, only allowed 20.0 points on average per game. Allowed 105 yards on the ground per game, so that's not the issue. And they've got phenomenal players on defense. Denzel Perryman, Cam Hart, like we talked about, Bud Dupree, Taylor Tart, the Tui Pilatu, and I'll get to him in a second. But there's a lot of questions still for me. Everyone likes the McDaniel pick. It sounds good and it looks good. He's quirky. He's a little out there. But how will this offense change now that, Greg Roman's out? A whole big change for Herbert. It's another offensive coordinator. How will Herbert take to McDaniel? There's a lot of talk that he's changing mechanics, getting the ball out quicker, less emphasis on throwing the ball and more on running and speed. The O-line, there's still a lot of questions with the interior O-line. What is the status of Tui Pilatu? This is a young kid who's about to hold out. He's only in year 4 and he wants to get that big contract. He's only 24 and he's already saying, where's my money? So you got these little problems bubbling under the surface already. But I think the D will be able to withstand a lot of that. I think the main problem for the Chargers is what's going on the offensive side of the ball. And I'm just not sold right now. I know Herbert will have a good season. He'll throw for whatever. He had 3,700 yards last year, 26 touchdowns. He's tough. He's durable. But I just don't see enough talent around him to make a charge in not just the West, but also in the conference itself.
And that segment of the show was brought to you by Imodium, when you don't want to shit the bed.
Sold! Here are the keys to your new home. New beginnings sound exciting. From a new marriage to a new home, having access to legal help comes in handy. With Legal Shield, you can connect with a designated law firm that knows your state laws, helping with prenups, real estate contracts, and even wills and estate planning, starting around $1 a day. Legal Shield. Real lawyers, really affordable. For 10% off your annual subscription, sign up at LegalShield.com today. That's LegalShield.com. Legal Shield does not provide legal representation or advice. See a plan for complete terms.